Class is in session. So you guys remember when we spoke about the Cape of Good Hope sea route? A lot of you genuinely wanted to know, why would Trump want control over the Cape of Good Hope sea route? Why would the United States want control over that? Like, what's the benefit of controlling that sea route? And what does controlling the Cape of Good Hope sea route even mean? What can you do with it? You know, it's just a sea route, you know. But the answer to that is more or less the same as the answer to this question: why does Trump want the Panama Canal? And the answer to that is simple. It's influence, security, and control. I'll make it make sense in a second. Just hold on tight. Do you remember this guy? And the statement he made about Lady R. So he said South Africa was supplying Russia with arms, and Lady R, docked in Cape Town, and South Africa supplied them with weapons, and then it went back to Russia. Then South Africa had military exercises with Russia and China. Now, this is a problem for the United States because the sea route that they're using and that Israel is using seemingly is being occupied and used not just by the South African Navy, but by the Russians and the Chinese and possibly the Iranians in the future. So South Africa has a legal right to patrol the Cape of Good Hope sea route, to use it for military exercises, to impose tax if they want to, maybe for like environmental stuff. They can impose an environmental tax, and we could make up to about R1 billion a year on that. But of course, our leaders. So if Iran, maybe, possibly, China, Russia is having military activities at the Cape of Good Hope, that might spell problems for Israel, might spell problems for the United States of America. If South Africa were to also impose tax, for example, let's call it environmental tax, because then I think that will be more palatable, right? They impose an environmental tax that affects Israel, that affects the United States of America, and they don't like that. Now, the problem is you can't control the Cape Sea route if you don't control South Africa. But now controlling South Africa is a little bit of a problem, That is why the best opportunity for them is a free, sovereign, and independent Western Cape protected by the US that takes the Cape Sea route straight to the hands of the White House, which means they can control tax, they can control military exercises in the sea route, and make sure that Israeli and American ships are safe and they pass through without any issues. So this is an update video. Remember, we had a conversation about the different sea routes and how the Cape of Good Hope sea route around Cape Town, seemingly a lot of people want to have control over that sea route, and we spoke about why. I have an update. So just a short recap. Of course, we spoke about how the American ships and Israeli ships can't pass through, or find it very difficult to pass through the Red Sea because of the attacks from the Houthis in Yemen. So now they have to find an alternative route, and that's around the Cape of Good Hope, right around here, right? So now the Houthis have caught on. They now realize that the Israeli ships and the American ships or vessels are not passing by the Red Sea anymore to avoid their attacks. And the Houthis actually responded to these Israeli and American ships diverting around Cape Town, essentially saying, you will be a military target wherever you are, because this is what they posted. So they posted this on their Telegram page and on Twitter, written "the next stage." So I thought to myself, wait, do they mean they going to attack Israeli and American ships around the coast of Cape Town, the Cape of Good Hope? Then I had to do a little bit of digging to find out, are they saying what I think they're saying? And then so I went to their Telegram page and took a look at this. So basically what they said is, if Israel cuts off electricity and food from the people of Gaza, within the next few hours. Then they will cut off Israel's navigation from the Red Sea, which is what they're doing now, and the Indian Ocean, and the Cape of Good Hope. That's Cape Town. And a few media outlets have covered this already. And just take a look at this quote here. It says, the Yemeni armed forces warn all Israeli ships heading to or coming from the ports of occupied Palestine not to pass through the Cape of Good Hope, Cape Town, or they will be a legitimate target for our armed forces. And there is a sense that the only way the Americans can properly safeguard Israeli vessels is if they have some control over the Cape of Good Hope sea route to provide cover and protection for Israeli vessels. So a lot's going to be discussed when these two guys meet on Wednesday, but what's important is to know that not everything is as it seems. There's a lot going on behind the scenes.